Okay, hello, I'm Gnobo Brice Calypso. This is segment 2 of Why Mystical Numerology, or as a subtitle, Putting the Rubber to the Road. I just talked about how I interpret the patterns and where I think the energy is coming from. And it's coming from our star, the sun, and the nebulae around us, and it's more about the star system that is the wavelengths are moving through the energy of the Earth. I do want to say I mentioned the electromagnetic spectrum of colors. It is called the electromagnetic spectrum of light, but I'm using the electromagnetic spectrum of colors only so that I can create a better picture in your mind. Now, with it briefly, a brief synopsis, because trust me, I could talk about this all day, and I don't think you want that, because I love this so much and always have. So much on this planet when I came onto it, just, as a little tiny child, it just made no sense to me whatsoever. And I'm born on the 16th, and we question everything, we analyze everything. And I guess in a strong Episcopalian household, I wasn't supposed to do that. But I did it anyway. Got into an awful lot of trouble. And I mean an awful lot of trouble. But nothing made sense to me. It was just nothing made sense. And I wanted to know why. And to this day, I want to know why. And I have a lot of the answers. Only being on the planet and studying, being part of the society, but that's not important right now. I want to go into the sacred geometry of mystical numerology. One thing to begin with is that this is based upon the energy and light emitted from the stars, the emission of that energy. And the wavelengths, and the frequency depends on, what each living thing vibrates at a certain level at. So we don't want to discuss that right now. But when we talk about the stars and we talk about the symbolism in numerology, we're going to look at the 5 right now. And the 5 is for life, living, humanity. And the 5 creates the star. So when we look at ourselves as a microcosm from the macrocosm, when we extend ourselves, and I'm sorry this is just a male, but Da Vinci did this, I did not. If I did it, it would have been androgynous, but my apologies that this is just a male. It should be male, female. Like Plato's male-female thing. Anyway, this is all geometrically correct. You could see the cube and then the circle around the cube. But all human beings, and it doesn't matter if a human being weighs 800 pounds or 80 pounds, if or no matter what color the person is, no cultural, no ethnic background, none of that has any bearing within the star energy pouring through us. It's all very impartial. So all that prejudice, all that stuff, all the stratification, all the status, all that's an illusion. It absolutely doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why live in a country? It doesn't matter within the stars and within the principles of the stars what color, shape, background, none of that matters. So anyway, we look at the human being, and this guy represents all human beings, male and female, from cultures all around the globe. And when we stand with our legs spread apart and our arms out, we have the golden pi, the golden ratio throughout us. So, and the golden ratio is the pi. The golden pi is the conversation of the Godhead or the God force always speaking through us, because it goes on for infinity. And it can be interpreted, but it's never a complete interpretation because it just goes on and on and on and on and on. So when we work with the golden pie, we're looking at the proportion and the golden proportion. And the golden pie is in all human beings' heads 10 times, and it's throughout our bodies. Here, 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 here. So when we extend ourselves out, we create the symbol of the star, which is the 5. So therefore that connects human beings to the star system immediately, just like that. Okay. Then when we get into sacred geometry, we look at the principles, but we look at the principles within the aesthetic form, within the proportion. So, and we look at all, we don't have to look at all the forms in sacred geometry. We can look at whatever ones we like. But like the triad has its form, the cube has its form, the nomad has its form, the dyad has its form, the tetrahedron, the star tetrahedron, the dodecahedron, all of them have forms that are aesthetic, and they're balanced. In sacred geometry, there's always expansion because you can add to these forms. It's never set. Nothing is set on the planet of approximation, and in a planet that's ever expanding. And that's a main principle of the universe, is there's always expanding from self-propagation, from parent energy, adding to that self-creations. It's really quite spectacular, the principles that are around us, and they're not that difficult. So when we look at sacred geometry, and we look at creations like this one was created by Aya from StarWheels.com, and this one was created by Barbara Evans from Divine Connections. And these do not say that these forms exist, but these do say the possibilities of the aesthetics of these forms is quite large. And what that means is, based upon Barbara's perception and interpretation, she uses a lot of the triads. She uses the monad, but she puts a dot in the middle of the monad, and then she uses the tetrad around that. So this can be almost examined like this, but in a different view, because here's the circle and here's the cube, and then in here, instead of the cosmic man woman, she has all these triads. So what we would do is look at this and then meditate on what all these triads are. This dot usually means the center of self, which is usually self-propagating, self-creating. So if we're self-creating and we're expanding out into these triads through this monad in a cube, what does that mean? So each one can have our interpretation of that. When we look at Aya's amazing sacred geometry, it opens up a whole lot of other dimensions to be revealed, to be discovered. And that's what sacred geometry is. Sacred geometry does not exist as principles that become set. It's always expansive. So these are two different individuals' interpretation of what sacred geometry means to them. And it really is up to us as individuals to sit back and look at this and find our own meaning. And again, Aya has the dot in the center that Barbara has. So it's focusing on the dot and allowing our intuition to expand with all the colors and movement. And so that dot is that self creativity, self propagation, and with Gnostic, being Gnostic, all of the answers come from within. That's because the light is always within, and that's what a star. That is the essence of a star, is light. So what we want to do is to allow our inner light to always come out. And that's what these religious, the different religions speak about. And that's a principle from the stars. So these sacred geometry can come in any form. But it's up to our interpretation. It's never set. And it can never be set. But you see with these two is that it's very expansive. It could always be added upon. And that we each have our own sacred geometry within our own sonata. But it does come from this point of self-creating within this lifetime. That's what these dots mean, is that in order for us to have our becoming, when we come upon the earth, we have to self-create. We have to emit the luminous energy from inside. We have to let this shine. So that means that it's kind of like a lonely path, but it's actually not, because the star system is always, it's that star trying to create itself always has the influence of the parent stars adding to it, but not forcing it. So we should allow things to be added to our self-creativity at all times from the parent energy around us, the wisdom. But we have to see that we are self-creating, to be self-generating, to emit our light, our luminosity into the world. And this is how I see life, is the beauty of sacred geometry that is always in motion, orbiting around us and itself creating new images. So I'm going to leave you with this. It's just a little bit about sacred geometry. Again, I can blah 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 about this all day long, and I don't think that you would enjoy that, but it gives you a little bit more understanding of why this crazy person named Gnobo Brice Calypso does this type of work, because I believe in it, and I believe all this has greater truth than a lot of the things that we're mesmerized or hoodwinked or bamboozled to believe. I believe all this is closer to the truth, and I want to share it, and I want to help, and that's what I do. So thank you for joining me, and see you in the next segment.